you are like me and know that free enterprise is the greatest opportunity in the world, but you also see there are huge issues starting to arise, like why is mentorship decreasing in popularity? Why do entrepreneurs like us who love to succeed see people fail at the top and never leave true significance? And how do people like us make a lasting impact on the world? And is it possible for enough entrepreneurial leaders together to make a real difference? These are the blaring questions, and this podcast is the answer. Journey with me, your host, Christian. Together we will challenge the status quo and conquer our legacies. Thank you so much for tuning in to Journey with Christian D. Evans podcast. Today, guys, we have someone extremely excited. Man, I am so pumped up to have him because we actually invested an hour, almost 2 hours, just talking, bouncing ideas off. I mean, he's one of those kind of individuals that, he will invest his time and his experience and his knowledge into you. And I'm just so excited to bring some of his knowledge, his wisdom in business and health and so many different avenues to you guys, my audience. So ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Dan. How are you doing, my man, Dan?
Thank you. What a kind introduction, and I appreciate it a lot. I'm doing really well. Good day so far.
Good. I know and appreciate you obviously being on. And I know that you're in Colorado. And tell us a little bit about, obviously, your history, where you're going, and a little bit about Dan.
A little bit about myself. I was one of those kids that's wild, really, really wild. And all the teachers and the things, it's the entrepreneur story. You're too wild, you're not doing well in school, the things, and you're just not focusing in the right directions that we want you to focus in. Mm-hmm. But when I focused, everything just kind of came together. So the last 15 years has been figuring out how to arrange my own mindset with my beliefs from the outside world to understand how to help people most effectively using my skills. Because we've all got those unique individual skills, and I've been really trying to learn how to hone those skills to be able to create the most effective impact for the world in the highest positive mindset for everyone involved. Mm-hmm. And it's been such a journey figuring that stuff out, because we make mistakes and we do all the things. And it's been so exciting to watch how it evolves, where you think that this is my future forever. I'm going to work for Dell Computer forever. Yeah. They're the greatest job. And then that switch. And then all of a sudden you're running your own business. Well, how do you organize that? What does that look like? Well, you need to have some things involved, products, brands, all these different steps. And what I realized is there's a way to do it really easily, step by step. And one of my strengths is building that process for people. So ever since, I've been building processes and learning what really drives me to be my best self. And that was creating and inventing. And it's been so fun to be able to create, invent, and build processes for myself and for others to really help them be their best selves. And that kind of sums it up. We can go into a lot more details on the hows and the whats and the whys, but that in general, I love to help people, and I love to do it using the skills of process, creativity, and just engineering to really make those things come to life.
And that's awesome that you make it very simplistic for any entrepreneur, any individual that's aspiring entrepreneur, if you will, to go out there and start from the basis. Now, let me ask you this, Dan, where do you find, because people get overwhelmed by information. There's so much information. So where do you find people? It's that cog in the wheel, if you will. Where do you find that, man, this is the hurdle that most people don't, to succeed? What is that hurdle for you?
I found the hurdle because I fell a lot of times on that hurdle.
Yeah.
And anytime I fall a lot of times, it makes me realize other people probably are as well. So it truly is trial and error. And then the research side. It's interesting. The research side is what I used to use. And I think a lot of people, when they're just starting out, go get that book, read. Yeah. Oh, this is the hurdle I'm about to experience. And I think that's so solid. It's so good to know what's ahead of that curve. But when you're so focused on the research instead of the action, a lot of times we get stuck in the fear because you research so much that you go, oh, I don't know how to do that. Yeah. I better learn. Let me go research some more. Yeah. Oh, well, there's this piece to this step. I don't know how to do that, so I better learn how to do that so I can do the step 2 steps ago. And you start realizing that you're now 15 steps deep and you're so educated.
Yeah. Wow.
And all of a sudden your education doesn't mean that much because you look back and say, I haven't done anything with it yet. Mm-hmm. I can talk the talk, but I got to walk the walk. So whenever I start walking the walk, and so the first step of what I had to learn was, how do I go from research to execution mode? Because that took 3 years.
Yeah.
just to figuring out how to get out of that mindset. And now I can learn, okay, so now there's a way where you can do a quick research, move on to the next step. So just the little tips and tricks that get you through those hurdles really quickly.
So yeah, that's awesome. So what is your strategy then in order to make sure that you're not sitting there and just research? Because it's very easy to do so. Like, oh, I'm busy, right? I'm working, right? And it's work, just being busy instead of actually, monetize some of these skills. So how do you right now kind of prevent yourself or put up these boundaries to make sure that, okay, you know what, I'll figure it out and then execute it?
I had to break the habit of my mind.
Mm-hmm.
My mind's first reaction was go reach out and silence that. Okay, go reach out and then figure out what to do next. And then I'll have my next steps and all these pieces. What I did was I had a mentor and he told me, you just got to action first. I want you to stop. I don't want you to research anything. All I want you to do is listen to a gut instinct and then you just act on it. Listen to your gut instinct, act on it. Because you've already done the research. We do. We go out there and if you don't and you hear the voice in your head already saying, this is what's important, this is what's important, you just go do it. And it might not do anything. And guess what? If it doesn't do anything, move to the next thing. Move to the next thing. And all of a sudden, that fourth thing, that third thing, you do it. And all of a sudden you see results. And you go, oh, maybe I should follow that track. But what you don't realize is that fourth thing you did, you had to have all the first three things done to get to the fourth thing. And I found simply by just, I think Mel Robbins is the one who says you just count to 3 or count to 5 and then you just do.
Yeah.
It's a really effective process where you stop thinking and you just go action. Now you can take a step further back because if someone is someone who spins all the time, like myself, you have to organize your time. You have to organize your calendar. You have to organize your schedule because giving away that time as a people pleaser, I love to give time and I'm so grateful to do it. And then after the week, I'll go, wow, why didn't I do anything the things I really talked about? And it's setting those to-do lists and in a process that works for you. Because to-do lists are great. My teachers always taught me to-do lists. But if I'm not doing it in a way that works for me, a to-do list is just a list of paper that goes to the wayside that I look at a few years later and go, I got about 20% of that stuff done. That's cool, but it's not effective. It's really structuring your mind to be in the present moment so that present moment is working as effectively as possible for you. The steps I've been using to get there has been morning routine, evening routine, and then working on getting my diet and or healthy eating in a way where it's not interfering with my work. Because I was cooking for so long every day, trying to, or I just wouldn't eat. There was these two sides, a day full of cooking or a day full of work where I don't eat at all. And those two are not healthy balances. So I've been really, the last 3 years I've been focusing on balance. How do I balance myself with what I used to know? And now today, what I know and putting that into practice.
Okay.
I know that's all over the place and that's kind of how my brain works. And then we bring it in and organize it all together.
No, and I think that's really good because, and this is one of the things that I struggle with for many years is like, I would, focus on action, but I never knew exactly what actions created what results. And so my next question really is, how do you, out of all the things that a business owner needs to really focus on, how do you determine what you need to focus on that will actually create substantial results in your business?
I'm testing and trying so many different things out. So I'll go 3 habit changers. The first one was if I can get 5 core habits built, that would be ideal because then I could get my healthy eating. I could get gym time. I could get my passion, budget, because if you can have a passion, but if you don't have the money for that passion, you get so frustrated in that situation. So what I realized was by fixing the healthy eating first, which is the 5x5, my process is a month per habit. So for the first week, all you do is think about the food you choose to eat and put in your body. It gives you that research chance. So the first week I think about the food. Maybe you want to have more protein. Maybe you want to have less protein, whatever it is. That's individual. week 2 and 3 are all practice. You're just messing up and you're getting used to the habit. And that's all you think about. That is the only habit that you focus on. You can still work your business because you got to make money, et cetera. But all those times where you're like, I just want to fix this thing and this thing and this thing, slow down, take one at a time. Because you have to get your body right to be thinking clearly enough to make a good decision for your business. If this isn't working correctly, none of this is going to work correctly. So on that 4th week of the first month, you've practiced the food, you're used to your habit, 21 days has passed. Now you start thinking about the next habit you're about to change. You have a week. And so month 2 starts, and now you're still eating healthy, you built the habits, and now you start thinking about the gym. How do I get my exercise in? And so now you do a month worth of that. With that 3rd week, the month 2, week 3, now I'm thinking about my budget. Now that I've got my mind right, my body's healthy, I feel energized, I've got the energy to go out and change my budgetary stuff. I can really move forward and change a budget, because the budget, the eating out, whatever that thing is that you choose to do, that you can make that small habit change in a month, that's all you got to think about. Month 4, I start going into passion, because now you've got the money saved up to start going after your passion. So now you really start focusing, what's my passion? What are my beliefs, my core values? How do I really institute the stuff that I want to see the world go through to make a real change for myself and for others? So you do your passion, and then that 5th month is documentation. Journaling is so good, and documenting what you're doing, because if you can be a teacher for your passion, for what you've done, because I promise you after 5 months of doing this, you're going to see your passion, all the healthy habits, and you're going to have this new creative balance to yourself that really brings in your best self for whatever you can now move forward. Because so many times we're sitting there spinning and all this stuff, and the business is just on the forefront, and we're like, why isn't the business succeeding? Why isn't? Well, it's because your mind and your body's not right a lot of times. And it comes down to as simple as that. You get those 5 things, now you start jumping into your time management, which can be different blocks. Some people do, I've been trying a 3-hour block for everything. 3 hours when I wake up, just for me time. 3 hours of work time, 3 hours of me time. 3 hours of work time, 3 hours of me time. And what ends up happening is you have a choice to get 6 hours of work in, or you get a chance of 9 hours, depending on how you spend that last 3 hours of your day. If it's a really busy day, you don't need more than 9 hours of work. When you're just doing spin, it's a lot of busy work. When you really shut your phone down, when you have a clear focus and your goal is set on what those 3-hour blocks are going to be focused on, my social time versus my just crank it out time, it's amazing how much you can accomplish. So that's the process that I've used in 6 months really to completely redesign my life to be focused around myself and my healthy balance so my business thrives.
And I appreciate you sharing that, because I think, obviously just from you sharing and explaining that, you can tell, Dan, that you are very systematic and you're very process oriented. And obviously you know what you're talking about, because I think I see that all the time, and I'm very guilty of it myself. Is I'd sit there and have these big, massive, lofty goals, definitely at the beginning of the year. And I try to basically get everything rolling, right? All these balls rolling at the same time. I want to change this. I want to change this. I want to change this. But how you were able to describe it is like, guys, stop doing all that, because you'll get, you'll be able to do it for 2 weeks and be like, all right, forget it. You know what I mean? And so I think what you're saying is like, hey, focus on one thing all 1 week, and then build upon that and build upon that and build upon that. And I think it just makes it so simplistic in bringing that in. And I think that's what you said is, the number one thing you need to start with is your body, correct? Because then that will come into your mind, and then it will lead into other avenues. And I appreciate you sharing that with me. Okay, cool.
What is your current process right now? Can we jump into that a little bit?
My current process? Yeah, 100%. I mean, I like my morning routine. Is that kind of what you're asking?
What's a day in the life look like for you?
Yeah, well, real brief, because I want to get back to you, Dan.
Yeah,
so
I appreciate it.
Real quick, I start to really kind of wake up at 4 o'clock in the morning, and what I do is I meditate, and then about like 10 or 15 minutes, it's not that long, meditate, just kind of visualizing my future, visualizing what's possible, visualizing like the things that I want to happen, because I understand the power of meditation. And then obviously just kind of praying. I'm very spiritual, and I read the Bible. Listeners, if you don't have to have my faith, this is just my morning routine. And then when I do that, then I kind of wake up, I go work out a lot of times. And then that's, whatever, and then kind of look at my LinkedIn, kind of, because that's the only time that I can really kind of comment, reach back out to message people. Otherwise, my day gets real busy, and that's kind
Mhm.
of my morning routine, if you will. And but very, very similar to you, you have to have something in place every single day because it's like one of those things. And I'm curious
Utah.
as well, like with yourself, where did you kind of find this understanding and this knowledge, realizing that, I can't do all this. I got to focus on one task at a time. Was that from a mentor? Or was that something that you just kind of discovered
Hmm.
over a period of time and reading? I'm just curious.
Hmm. Yes, and it has been both.
Hmm.
It's been, I feel that this isn't working. I'm tired of feeling my wheels spinning.
Yeah. Hmm.
I know how driven I am here, but why do I feel so lazy here?
Hmm.
And it's not laziness, it's just what I discovered really was I was being so hard on myself for not accomplishing what I wanted to accomplish at that very second for that day, even though the day was wonderful. And it truly just came down to myself and the inner words I heard in my book, inner words. And I started listening to those inner words, and they were saying, "You're not doing enough. You're not moving fast enough. Oh, you just spent all that time with that person that you never even expected to, and now all of a sudden your whole day has been just da 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 da." So these internal thought processes, I realized, are taking over and controlling my whole process. And I had to find a way to allow myself to just live life in a happy way. I stressed myself out so much to the point where my body was in a massive amount of dis-ease, and it turned into disease. And that evolution, I going from being really sick to then coming back and finding out how to, because I know I'm meant to run a business and
Yeah.
be a really big light in this world, but I also know that my body's got to be healthy for that to happen. So when my business became number one, my body became number two, and it was very loud and very clear when my health started to decline. So ever since then, it's been, how is a person with all the distractions today supposed to go through the world loving themselves with all the noise that we hear, the negative noise that we hear, and run a business while having a family and all of the things that go around by yourself as a solo entrepreneur? I could not understand how people did it. And it made me feel like I was doing something wrong. And there's that internal voice. And I felt like something could have been more effective. So I just started researching and feeling and listening. And I channel. I don't know if you believe in that, but I hear these downloads, if you will, and they just kind of tell me this is the way. If I ask the question, and I attribute it to God, universe, source, however you choose to see your believe in your inner being's guidance system, it's listening to that and having you as an antenna opened up enough that you can hear that inner voice come through, so your superpower can really be accentuated. So others, you then can teach that superpower and help others collaborate, integrate, and move through the world as balanced as possible. And I really very quickly saw that time management was what was keeping me so frustrated. I never knew how to run my own calendar. I'm a very flow person. It's funny that you see me as a process person. I never saw that. For
Yeah.
me, it was like, I go by the flow of how the day runs, and I still do that.
Yeah.
It's very much how I've run, but I figured you have to have some semblance of a process, so I started big. And what I realized was winter, spring, summer, fall. And there's this process in winter, we huddle in because we're in winter now. And the winter time is this time where you sit into your home and everything gets cold around you, and you lock in, you plan, you strategize, you rebuild. Winter is the most perfect time to rebuild your website and to really get your online strategy ready to go, because it allows, where everyone else is focusing on their stuff, you get to huddle in. Spring comes and you start launching and testing all those new processes and programs. All of a sudden it's working well in the spring, you're making money, you've proven the system. Summer hits, that's when people are booming, that's the energy boom. And all of a sudden when things are growing, you're just following the world cycle. And it's very much the Ayurvedic way of living, because you utilize the cosmic path we're on with your business path, and all of a sudden you see serious success because you're growing with the momentum of the world. and the universe. So as the summer's blooming and blossoming, your systems are in place with your strategy that you've already created, already tested. And all of a sudden, when everyone else is like, I'm so excited to be energetic, I'm going to build my website. That's great, but you're so busy doing things. You're so busy in the growth of it all. It's hard to then get ready for the lull that happens in that fall time, where you get to really take a breath from your summer activities and get ready for the Christmas boom.
Mm-hmm.
For this boom that's about to happen on this energetic level, because that's where when you see businesses really thrive, they're getting ready for Christmas. So it's fun when you start seeing how the world flows, and then you start putting your own strategy on top of it, and then you put your daily activity, your monthly, your six, and you start seeing how you can go from a 3-year plan to a 1-year plan to a 6-month to 3 months to 1 month to 3 days to now 1 day. And from the 1 day, 3-hour blocks. That's what I've really been trying to tweak and work on to ensure that I'm in flow and connected with what's around me and also my clients to the best of my ability. That's been the process.
Yeah. And I appreciate you sharing that, because it's a very, very needed information right there, because new year, February, March, oh my gosh, 2020, I want to be a multimillionaire by, whatever.
Good.
And you're exactly right. Where like, yeah, you can have that goal. That's fantastic.
Excellent.
However, though, you do have to work backwards and realize that, okay, what do I need to do every week to be able to obtain, that goal? And I appreciate you sharing that with me. And that was just over a period of time, learning, understanding, kind of getting to know who you are. So how did you kind of, because the biggest person that's kind of in our way is ourselves. We all know that. And so how were you able to kind of get yourself out of the way and, just blossom into the business owner that you are?
Humility.
Mm-hmm.
Just trying things, for knowing that you have the drive, because everyone's got the drive. And then recognizing that if you've had the idea, when I recognize that if I've had an idea, I had the ability to accomplish it. Mm-hmm. We don't get ideas that we can't accomplish.
Yeah.
It doesn't happen. That's my personal belief. And once I started really diving into that feeling and then realizing, okay, I can accomplish these ideas. Why am I not? Mm-hmm. Why is it? Realizing that there is some healing. I think that's number 2. And that's where humility comes into play. So being humble enough then to realize maybe I'm not maybe there's still learning to be had. That'll be really positive. So on top of humility, because humility leads to this, but having a growth mindset. I was in such a fixed mindset for so long. I've got the answers. I know what's best for me. Mm-hmm. This is all good. I don't want to do anything that I'm not great at, because if I fail, then that's going to lead directly to me.
Yeah.
So by humbling myself to realizing I have a very fixed mindset, and I'm not allowing myself to be in love with learning, and not just researching, but learning and getting in and getting my hands dirty, getting it muddy and loving the mud. Mm-hmm. That's when everything opened up. And final by that, because that's how I learned the skills, but then opening up to God, source, universe, and saying, you're in control here. I have these skills, and I thought I had this strategy and plan that was going to work out so perfectly. It's time for you to show me what to do, because I am ready to be utilized as a tool toward this greater purpose that I keep hearing about. But I'm clearly not doing this correctly, because I keep hitting these walls. And when I just open it up for the world and say, no more preconceived notions, be humble, utilize my skills, be a forever learner. Mm-hmm. Now, it feels better. Clients come in, and all of a sudden software works. The things that were breaking around me are now fit, like they're becoming everything. It's incredible what happens when your energy is not, it's more, it's going to be okay.
Yeah.
That's a really hard thing to do as a business owner who's got bills, family, ha. You got to find a way to calm it down, or you will spin and burn out. And there's no need.
It's almost like the difference between like an ample mindset, where that, hey, if this client doesn't go through, it's okay. There's another person out there, and I love your perspective on that, because man, again, another thing I'm guilty of, I can raise my hand and say, holy crap, man, do I want to just sit there and like, I want to close. Why the heck, like why,
Yeah.
and why is this stupid thing? And you
Yeah.
get frustrated, you get annoyed,
Yeah.
and you're exactly right. Humility is a huge key behind it. So, and I think this is really cool because Dan, you have a podcast, talking about, actually connecting. And, where you're talking about where definitely in this business world, everybody wants to automate everything. And I'd love to just kind of get your perspective on, the reason why you built the podcast that you have, and how you guys talk about what you guys talk about and the purpose behind it. What's your vision?
Mm-hmm. The podcast, thank you for asking that question. I really appreciate it. The podcast is called Actually Connecting, and we help open up a conversation and a dialogue where we can bring people in and have real conversations about emotions, consciousness, and connecting, and what those things do to allow our lives to become more free and allow those things to become things that connect us together. We talk about connecting with social media and internet, right? It's great, but it's a tool to connect. Yeah. And we have many of us have fundamentally forgotten that. Social media is not connecting. It's the tool that allows us to connect with more people. And I think once you really start to delve into what that means, you realize that a lot of people today are not able to connect the way I've seen people be able to connect 20 years ago. And there's positives, negatives, there's all sorts of things that we don't have to go into that. The bigger piece is, how do we ensure that kids who are being raised Gen Alpha right now, and they were raised on technology, because as millennials, we were raised in an environment where we saw both. Early on, we were raised without technology and learning how to connect face to face. Then we saw it come through where it was 50-50, and then it was most of our lives, and now we're at this generation where it's all of our lives. We're learning via, so instead of flipping the Uno card over, it's a button. Yeah. I watched a kid do it, and we were playing Uno, and she pressed the Uno card into the carpet, wondering why it wouldn't flip. She could not understand why this card wouldn't flip. And it's these kind of things, and it's how do we now allow kids and adults who have never known how to connect because they were bullied in school, because they felt they were the different ones. How do we as the different ones learn how to connect with people all across the world? Because when you're bullied, when you are learning new connection techniques that are not allowing the face-to-face and the energy to really come through, it hinders in a way that can only be felt, not necessarily described, which is why I'm struggling to describe it right now. You have to feel it. And I know we can feel this, and this is amazing. And I'm so grateful that the education, the information, but unless you have two people, and I believe that we have this connection, you can genuinely feel what we're talking about. If you don't know how to do that from a young age, how do you ever learn those skills? Because those are fundamental core skills that go deep with confidence. They go deep with just those really basic things that if you don't have early, it takes a lot of process and habit breaking to learn. And I feel like I'm on this earth to figure those things out and help people move forward. And the three that I really focus on in Actually Connecting podcast are emotions, consciousness, and connecting. Because emotions lead to the connection. Consciousness are what you have as a tool and your being to connect. And when you add all those things together, incredible things happen. And I would love to see the world become a more connected and loving place through it.
Yeah, and man, you're so right on. I want to foot stomp that so much because it's like, what I find so interesting is like, these, and I related back to business, like the thing that Amazon and Giant Eagle and Walmart and all these companies, like everybody wants to be this next multi-billion-dollar company. But the thing is that if you run a small business, you can connect personally with each and every single one of your customers. That's something that Amazon can't do. You know what I mean? That's something that becomes so valuable in an unconnected world. It becomes very valuable in the marketplace, and not even just on the business aspect, but like you mentioned as well, like just being able to have a conversation with someone. So let me ask you this, like, because and Gary Vee says this all the time. Yeah, we could all, talk about this, blah, blah, blah. But like at the end of the day, everybody's on the phone, and that's where we're going to market, and it's like one of those, it is what it is, and we just go with it. You know what I mean? However, though, I do agree that we need to take that back. So how can you, what do you suggest to be able to kind of move in the right direction of reconnecting and relationship building?
I'm really grateful you brought up Amazon in this whole piece, because it's so important. Amazon connects with millions, if not billions of people all day.
Mm-hmm.
They really have a connection ability that so many of us don't have that influence. And that's really where influence comes into play. So how do you get a solo person to have the influence that Amazon has in a way that you're having real energy and connection come through? I think that's the ideal goal that we're all looking for, because we live in 2020, and we live online, and we have phones, and all these things are real. So how do you allow yourself to be real with yourself and also be able to connect with the millions available to be connected with? And I found that it comes through discovering your beliefs, your goals, your vision, and your boundaries.
Mm-hmm.
So when you understand your beliefs and your vision and your goals, you know what you stand for, why you stand for it, and then you start learning how to do what you want to accomplish. But when you get those, and then, so those things, get your core correct, and now you start building a platform to be able to connect with more people online. So that's that introduction, because when you have your values and your beliefs, you know how to connect with people. You're starting to realize where the healing comes from, because everyone has healing to be done from when we're past, all the things. You have to go through that internal healing, in my opinion, at least, before you jump onto the online game, or you end up healing in front of people and at other people's expenses and at your expense. And that's okay. If you choose to have that on a platform for others to see, wonderful. More power to you. You will live a life similar to Paris Hilton. She is healed and grown with, and any other TV star that's chosen to put their life truly on the limelight. Once you realize the core that you can build and how your core can translate into a brand, well, now the brand becomes monetizable. And with monetization comes impact and growth from organic and from paid information sources. So getting yourself correct, learning how to connect with those people one-on-one, and then taking those skills that you find out in real life are very real skills, turning them into a brand, monetizing that brand, creating the online platform, and then you step in and help them advertise and get that platform. And not the platform, because we're no longer talking about the platform. If you remember, we're talking about your beliefs, your values, your visions, and your boundaries. And that's what you're teaching and having go out into the world. And that's where you see authenticity. That's where you see real growth. And people want to follow and they want to watch. And you can't, we have this interesting industry right now where you go on Facebook and someone says something and we say, I disagree with that. Nope. Terrible. Enter. Feel great. Oh, someone said something. No. And you go back through this process and no growth actually ever happens. If you create your own platform in your own scenario, in your own setting, where you can create a community by leading through example, well, now you're making real change, because people can follow through by example. And it's really, based on what I've seen, it's the only way to grow and learn and have other people follow, is by just doing what you say you want to do and lead by example through it. And also be vulnerable enough to learn through the mistakes, because it is really hard to go out and put your face out there into the world. But when you know, and you wake up every day knowing those cores, the core values, beliefs, vision, goals, and boundaries, everything comes easier. You breathe easier. You know what kind of being you want to be in the world and in yourself, and it makes it easy. So I think that transition from learning how to use the tools we have today while also being your best grounded self is clutch.
So then how would you, like someone that's listening and like they don't know where to like start with all that, how would you kind of say, okay, this is kind of the first step, if you will, to like being able to align your beliefs, your values, your actions together.
Yeah, I appreciate you asking that. I have a free course that I give out for anyone to use. I'll send you a link
Yeah.
that we can put it in any
The description.
places. Yeah, description, exactly. And what it does is it's just 5 days where you walk through and you figure out your vision, you figure out your goals, you figure out your beliefs, your values, and your boundaries. And it's create your core. That's it. Create your core, and then understand that, because when you create your core, things will come out. You'll start really seeing the discrepancies between what you're currently doing in present day, what you want to have accomplished, and where you're living in the past. Where you're living in the past is your healing. Where you're living today is the present. Your future is what you're trying to accomplish. Learning how to pull the future back to the present is so important. And you'll discover all of that by figuring out those 5 pieces.
That's brilliant. So let me ask you this. So, and I appreciate that, guys. If you guys are listening, that the description is actually below. I mean, that link is going to be in the description right below. You can click on that, go check out Dan, of course, and his content information is free value that he's given to you. But let me ask you, Dan. So, like, being able to figure all that out, how important is it? I mean, will it save you from, multi-million-dollar deals, or will it save you from like being, felony in the future? Like, you know what I mean? Like, how important and how imperative is it to find this information before you go out there and just hit your head against the wall, maybe have good success, but then lose it all and really, like, be very regretful? I'm just curious, like, just so we can hone
Your
in.
word is exactly, I think, what it saves you from is regret. It saves you from yourself.
Yeah.
Yourself is your worst enemy. If you and yourself can be a best friend for each other, can truly, the one person you rely on and really genuinely can trust is yourself, and then the values, beliefs, and all these pieces are strong. Robin Williams got really successful. He did very well in this world and ended up passing away because he killed himself. That's himself was attacking himself. And it's so hard when you've got the whole world in our mind at your fingertips.
Yeah.
And then it doesn't make sense to a lot of people. But a lot of times we see the suicide rates really jumping up. There's this really intense rate of just insane depression, anxiety. We've got a medical system that is advocating for things that are just, in my opinion, horrendous. And everyone's getting pushed into this Western cycle of you eat bad food makes you sick, gets you in the medicine just fixes the symptoms. The real issue is the core. Yeah. When are we going to go back to the core and realize emotionally it leads to all these different steps? And I think for me, I was so tired of doctors saying, oh, you must be ADD. Oh, you must be bipolar. Oh, you must be depressed. Oh, how many more diagnoses can we get before I just realize maybe it's none of it, and maybe I'm just looking for my best self and I haven't been able to find it yet.
Yeah.
And I think it will save you from yourself. And if that's not enough motivation, TV is very enjoyable. And it's a great coping mechanism until it's not anymore.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of us are in it.
Man, and to me, that's one of the reasons why I do this podcast. And I appreciate you sharing this, because it's like, we talk about mentorship, leadership, significance. The reason why, like, you see all these people that are quote unquote successful, but at the end of the day, they don't know their wife, they don't know their kids, they don't, they're in felonies or whatever, you're prosecuted for felonies. And it's like, you're exactly right, where if you don't develop that integrity, that wholeness, that values and the beliefs, and align that with your actions, then there's going to be something. And it's not a matter of if, it's just a matter of when, right? And that's the reason why, you want to make sure that obviously reach out to Dan and obviously even get his course, because, being able to figure that stuff out is so imperative. And so that's kind of what helped you get this success that you have now, correct?
And it started truly, and I'm grateful you just said what you just said. Everyone starts at a different time figuring this stuff out. You can be any age. You can have all the regrets in the past saying, I did this though. I haven't done this though. but what if I'm this type of person? All of those things are just preconceived notions that we are placing on ourselves to not allow us to move forward in the way that we genuinely can feel we're meant to move forward. So my number one piece is forgive yourself. Just realize that I forgive you, they forgive you, it's not about, forgive yourself and just choose to make one step for you. And whatever that step is, whether it's organization, time, value, there's a lot of different steps. Everyone starts at a different place. But jump in the river, start flowing, because it's really where the fun begins to happen.
That's great, man. That is great. I think that's so awesome. I appreciate you bringing that up because that is so valuable. So now, what are your values? What do you value in life, and how did you kind of develop those values?
Oh, man. I'm learning those values, every day.
Yeah.
The values, what I really came to is do no harm. For me, that was a big deal. If you know that harm is being created, I look for the win-win-wins. I win, you win, they win.
Yeah.
That's the goal, right? I mean, if we can get that running, that's awesome. And I feel like in a capitalistic society where money is the number one, it's so easy for many to say, okay, we've got this new product, but it's hurting people. It's only hurting 8% of people. Let's not talk about it. We'll just it's not a big deal. Keep going. I think the second you realize you're doing harm to yourself, to your family, to others, you've got to know there's a better way. It might be harder. It might be more work. It might feel that way, but in the long run, it's just, if you hold yourself to the standard of excellence, where you know that you do no harm, and if you discover the harm, you work to ensure that no longer continues, with, again, the humility and the forgiveness, because people forgive. That's the whole, I think we're in this pointing fingers society. You just said that word. Yeah. You just said this thing. You just did that. And it's, no. Take a step back and worry and start focusing on how to forgive, how to heal. And it really is its core. And everything will start to become better. And I think that's, I don't know. Does that answer it?
Yes.
Is that tweet, or did I kind of veer off too much?
No, I think you're right on that. And man, you were speaking it definitely to the audience, and I appreciate you sharing that, because just such valuable information is coming from Dan, guys. And I hope you guys are able to just take this information and actually apply it, put it into place. Like Dan was talking about earlier on, action, guys. It's action. It's 100% action. Putting down, it's all about research. Listen to these podcasts. That's great. But at the end of the day, you have to put it into action, put it into word. And so Dan, how can they reach out to you if they have any questions, if they, obviously want to, get your program, they want to learn from you? How can they reach out to you, my man?
danbrue.com, and it's BRUE. So DANBRUE.com. And you can see the podcasts there. You can see some of the travel stuff, and I'm uploading everything to that site, having one central location that spreads out to many locations. And that's kind of what I teach. How do you have one central location where you can push share and have everything send out, and then have specialists be specialists at what they do to then get the reach even farther? So I focus on what I love, and then the rest is just an ecosystem that flows out in a ripple pattern. And that's what I've been working on, as processed and as strategic as possible, so you can get it done in 6 weeks, because that's what we do now. 6 weeks, you can have your online business built. Check, 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 and on to you, where you're going to get them advertised and into the world.
That's awesome, man. That's great. So if you guys are looking to, obviously, don't know where to start, and you don't know, obviously where to even begin developing and building a business, Dan specializes in that. And he's got incredible. If you look at on his LinkedIn, he's got incredible recommendations from a lot of business owners that he's worked with. And I can obviously testify for him as well. So definitely reach out. Like I said, the description is going to be below, his information, his website, and his other contact information, but definitely check him out. Anything else, Dan, you want to add before I let you go?
If you're interested in connecting and you have a passion for consciousness, emotions, and that real kind of connecting side of you, and you've got great stories and experiences, reach out and we would love to have you on the show. And if you're looking for someone to have advertise your business, this guy's the guy. He will hook it up. That's what I got to say, man.
Awesome. Well, I appreciate your time, man.
Yeah.
And until next time, guys. All right.